like Benson, I'm a Who Dat. I'm a Who Dat. Long as I'm living, I'm a Who Dat. Lose or winning, I'm a Who Dat. Sports coma, yeah, this is where we do that. Where we do that, where we do that, where we do that, where we do that, where we do that. Boogie like Benson, I'm a Who Dat. I'm a Who Dat. Sports coma, this is where we do that. Where we do that. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Somebody please better help. Running this thing like elf. I thank God every day I'm not a felt. Go to YouTube Live with Big Q and the guys. If you ain't ride or die, the bandwagon get flipped. Been marching in, that was way for the ring. I was yelling out your shame for the championship. Bucking on Tampa, duck down. Falcons, pluck, get shut down. Panthers ain't much touchdown. The vision really belong to us now. So much hate on the Saints, you could probably tell. Ever since Bounty Gate hit the NFL, when things seem fishy and you probably smell the crooked referees or Roger Goodell. Probably like this and I'm a Who Dat. Every day I'm living, I'm a Who Dat. Lose or winning, I'm a Who Dat. It's the sports coma, this is where we do that. Where we do that, where we do that, where we do that, where we do that, where we do that. Boogie like Benson, I'm a Who Dat. It's the sports coma, this is where we do that.
You're listening to the Sports Coma with Big Q and the guys on the PRO Media Network.
All right, shout out to the fam. Appreciate y'all for being on the live. Welcome. You're now rocking with the Sports Coma with Big Q and the guys, where we have intense, entertaining, educating, and enlightening sport talk from your favorite sports fam. I'm up in this thing. Shout out to y'all. Appreciate y'all for being in this stream on this episode of the show. Big ups to the fam, man. This one here, man, y'all know what it's hitting for. Of course, the Saints did the end of the season presser today, man. We're going to go over it. Mickey Loomis mentioned some points. Kellen Moore sat uncomfortably next to him. So we're going to go over it and listen to it. So y'all hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and the share button, man, as we go. This is being quite the tradition for us here on the Sports Coma, catching up with Slick Mick Loomis and Kellen Moore, man. Here we go.
Yeah, I don't know that there's anything surprising for us. I mean, we thought a lot of him going into the draft, and collectively, I'm talking about our personnel staff, our coaches. So we felt like, man, this guy's got a chance to be a real good quarterback in the league, and that's why we drafted him. So I think, I don't think surprising is the right word. Probably progressed a little faster than maybe we expected. But I think our coaches, did a great job with him. I think our players embraced his opportunity, and obviously the player himself embraced his opportunity.
Is there a balance to strike between having like a young team, a young core, but also like an extremely winnable division? Like, how do you like fall on those things between like building the young core versus like you can win the NFC South possibly next year?
Yeah. Well, I think all of us, every guy with every team, whether it's a coach or GM, thinks they have a vision for how they can win their division, regardless of how strong or weak you may think it is. So we're going to approach it the same way. Hey, how do we improve enough to win the division? And we don't want to just win the division. I mean, we don't want to be an 8-8 or 8-9 winning team in the division. We want to win the division, be dominant, and have a chance to make a run in the playoffs. So that's what our goal is going to be.
Do you worry about like having everybody on the same timeline, or is there like a possible mix of having some older guys on one-year deals versus acquiring 27-year-olds?
Well, I think every team has that, regardless of whether you plan for it or not. You're going to have that circumstance because you need and want some veteran players in your building. But we do talk about, hey, the core players on your team and what's their timeline in terms of contracts and how do we manage it. So we do have discussions about it.
Maybe, without knowing like your full history, I mean, it's been at least a very, very long time since you're building around a rookie back at quarterback. Like what sort of advantages does that give you from your perspective?
Yeah, it's just easier to manage your resources. I don't know if it's easy. I don't know if easier is the right word, but you have some leeway to manage resources a little bit, and so, but you still have to make really good decisions. And I think it's pretty well documented that teams that have the quarterback on a rookie deal have been able to do some things and have some success. And so part of that is just building your roster and managing it over the 2, 3, 4 year period that you're facing, and it's just a different equation. It's a different math equation, really.
And we've talked
Yeah, this is what's interesting about the Mickey Loomis thing. It's like having success with Kellen Moore and Tyler Shuck this season was big on many levels, man, because what it did was it helped set the table moving forward. But listen, this wasn't something let's not sit up here and pretend like this was a plan. Dennis Allen was forced out by the mighty Who Dat Nation. We got up on, Gail Benson. We started turning them tickets in and we forced them to reset this team. Let's be honest. Because had not we had done that to Gail and the Saints, then Dennis Allen would have still been the coach. Because Mickey Loomis was defending him profusely, saying that it was the wrong move to fire him. So when we got him on the body here, then Kellen Moore, they had to reset the team. They was trying to get Coach Glenn. Glenn chose the Jets. We ended up with Kellen Moore. Worked out well. The Saints took a shot, a gamble, a big shot, a big gamble on Tyler Shuck. And just like I've said before, when you gamble, you either two things going to happen. Either you're going to win or you're going to lose. There's no in between. The Saints won with Kellen Moore. The Saints won with Tyler Shuck. And they win it. They won the gamble. But credit to Mickey Loomis for making the right choices after the Who Dat Nation forced Dennis Allen out of here. That is the absolute fact of the matter.
Just a lot of recent years, we want to get the cap kind of back toward neutral, I guess, is where I would put it. You feel you're almost there on that? You feel there?
I feel pretty good about it. Yes, I do feel good about where we're at.
Along these team building lines, I mean, we've had.
See that before. Mickey Loomis has said that before, even when the Saints was thinking with Dennis Allen. They asked him the same question. He said the same comment, that he felt good where they were at.
This session, something where you don't like the word rebuilding or like the complete teardown or whatever. Did you adjust like your willingness to embrace that? I mean, there were obviously some signs trading Rashid Shaheed, trading for Jalen Poole. Find yourself even leaning more into that than you expected?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I would say that's true.
And what led to it? What did you like about it? I guess as you were going through it.
Yeah, I think the beginning of that was just Derek not being able to play this year. That's the beginning of it, and then you look at, okay, we're going to have a young quarterback, and there's going to be a lot of development. And so how can we develop the rest of the team along with his development so that we marry this timeline of his improvement and the things that we're going to need to be able to do to support him. With a really good defense, with a good run game, and so those are the kinds of things you keep in mind.
The interesting part about it is when they talk about the Derek Carr phenomenon is this with me. Derek Carr was a part of the old regime with Dennis Allen, who did a lot of protective measures to make sure he doesn't face a lot of competition at the QB position. He allowed him to pick his own backup in Jake Hayner through the draft, who's a Fresno State guy, much like himself. When Dennis Allen was forced out of the Who Dat Nation, what ended up happening was Derek Carr was put on Front Street, meaning that all of the things that he wasn't being, he himself wasn't holding himself accountable for, the Who Dat Nation then said, okay, now it's on you. If he was hurt or not, he said he was hurt, whatever the case was, the guy didn't want to be here anymore. And listen, and to be honest with you, the damn truth was it was mutual. He never was anybody that won the overall love and respect of the Who Dat Nation. He never performed, not even close to the six-figure contract that he got. And it was really a blessing in disguise when the Who Dat Nation forced out Dennis Allen. A side effect of it was Derek Carr ultimately deciding to retire. Now, there's rumors that he could possibly come back with another team. I don't give a damn. The bottom line is he was forced out. The whole money situation around him really helped our cap this year. Now, he counts about $36 million against the dead cap for this upcoming season. But if you look at the money on our books right now, we're over $15 million in the red, which could have been a lot worse had his contract, you see what I'm saying, if he'd been an active player on this team and he had not stepped away. So it was both of those things was like killing two ugly birds with one massive stone, so to speak, right? Getting out the failing coach, getting out his hand-picked quarterback, and bringing in new, fresh talent there. That was really something that to revitalize the Who Dat Nation. Not to mention, shout out to Mickey Loomis for admitting having a pivot and mindset about resetting the team and doing what he's supposed to do. So at least he admitted that much.
Kellen, Was it always your coaching philosophy to play guys like Quincy Riley and Davey Stutzman and Jonas Sanker as early as you did, or did that come from conversations about, hey, this looks like the direction of this team right now?
I think the important thing about that is that those guys were ready when the opportunity presented themselves, and no timelines are going to be the same. Felt like Tyler's development was a great example of that, of his willingness to get better through an entire season. Quincy kind of had an opportunity through injury to hop in there. Danny kind of was a guy that I think is a great example of just being a really talented player that we feel great about and finding different roles and different opportunities where he can get on the field. And so
That's true.
A lot of these timelines were different, but I think it was important to see these guys play and have exposure. And I thought a lot of these guys took advantage of the opportunity.
Absolutely. That's 100% true. Oh,
Time
that's
of development, did any part of it, sort of wow you a little bit during the
Nobody's
course of
talking about my
last 8
shirt.
weeks or so?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some flashes there that you just, whoa, that's really good. But I don't think surprise is the right word because
What's the right word, Mika?
you have expectations when you draft somebody in the
here
second
we go.
round or first round, and because you value the talent and you have a vision for that player or those players
That's
being,
not the
being
right word.
successful, and so I don't think surprise is the right word, but obviously pleased.
How does this development
All right, so Mickey's not surprised. Well, hold on now, goddammit. Wow, hold on. You guys, you were surprised. And I've been in here for 1,000 years. Nothing surprises me. You guys hadn't missed it. It's one question I got. You guys hadn't said anything about my new shirt right here. What's wrong with you guys? Look at this brand new shirt I got here. I got gray all over my head. It matches my gray, don't you think? Somebody please mention this shirt. I just borrowed it off a line from Walmart. Hold on now. That's a Mickey special. Cost me $4.95. Hold on. It was on sale from $39.95. Oh, I'm saving money all over the place, baby. Yeah, man. So Mickey is, he's not surprised. More pleased than surprised. Well, I'm not surprised because I knew it was going to happen. God damn it. I was going, hold on now, Yeah, okay, Mickey. Okay. All right. So anyway, shout out to you guys. Hit the like button. We up in this thing, man. We're going to do this, man. Also, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Here we go.
Development, of course, this is like either change your outlook on what this team could be or how you maybe want to pivot to go this offseason, like did it have an impact at all?
That's a good question. I don't know that we've determined that. That's part of this postseason process that we're going to go through, evaluating the roster, determining what we need to do in this offseason. Obviously, we feel good about the quarterback position.
And then what did you see Kellen just go as a coach this season?
I'm sorry, say that again?
What did you see Kellen just kind of go and build as a coach?
I haven't thought about it in that term, but listen, I think he's done an excellent job, and under some really difficult circumstances. We hired Kellen under a set of circumstances relative to the quarterback, and then that changed dramatically, and he didn't bat an eye. Just, okay, what's the next step that we have to do, and how do we attack it? And that was impressive right from the beginning. And then during the course of the season, obviously there's circumstances and things that come up during the course of the year that you can think you're prepared for, but you're really not because you haven't been put in that position. And I think in virtually every case, he handled it really well, and so that's been exciting to see.
How do you handle the situation? You're going to obviously have a situation coming up with some legendary veteran players, and Darren, Mario, and even Pacer. Have you thought about how you'll handle that, what their futures could be, letting them test free agency, or maybe what the plan could be?
Yeah, I think, and it's not just specific to those guys, but there's a process that we go through at the end of the season. It's an evaluation, and then it's a determination of, hey, do they want to come back? Do we want them back? And then even that, there's still, okay, there's a lot of variables, What's the contract situation? What's the timeline? There's just too many variables for me to give you a definitive answer on any of that. But look, I'm excited to hear when those guys declare they want to be back here, and I would say on the surface we definitely want to have them back. But there's just so many other variables that exist that I can't really answer that question right now.
Yeah, rework the contracts on it. I think it's very feasible. I don't think Demario Davis or Cam Jordan break the bank because there's no leverage there, meaning that both of these great players are only interested in playing for the Saints an additional year. They see the Saints as their team forever, and when they retire into greatness, they're going to be Saints. Demario's not going to retire as a Jet or a Brown or, he's a Saint. He'll retire as a Saint. He'll go into the Saint Hall of Fame as a Saint when he ultimately is being decided on whether or not he'll make a Hall of Fame bid. He's going in as a Saint. And I think it won't be as hard as Mickey is saying. He don't want to show his cards, but I get that. But I think it shouldn't be a difficult transaction for both Cam and Demario Davis to re-sign for an additional year. There are multiple years of voided money that the Saints owe them, so we could start there. Outside of that, the other two signees, the two major signees of this offseason period, is obviously Chris Olave and uh, Alante Taylor. Those are the two big ones, right? Chris Olave, obviously the top guy on offense in terms of skill players, had a phenomenal year. He's going to command 19, $20 million a season, so he's not going to be cheap. Might have been cheaper for the Saints to sign him a couple of months ago when they originally started these negotiations. But now that the season is ended and he's broke all of these highs, touchdowns, receiving yards, caught more passes than he ever did. And at the time he balled out and had a stellar year. Um, for the Saints this past year, he wants to get paid. So it's kind of it's kind of interesting that we've heard that they're negotiating, but we haven't heard any figures. Usually you'll hear something bantering back and forth between the player's agent and the team. You'll catch a guy like Schefter or a guy like Ian Rappaport or one of our insiders said that they'll link in and say, well, the Saints out offered. You'll hear leaked information about offers made between the two, right? It'll be a back and forth thing. None of that is not. It hasn't happened, and it's been at least 2 months since they said they were negotiating on a contract with Chris Olave. Very interesting there. Plus, if you guys watched the end of the regular season recap show that we did on Monday, was a 2-hour special. Y'all check that out for those who didn't see it. We talked a lot about it. We played the interviews from several players at the end of the year. We went over the capnomics. We went over some of the stuff with the draft. We kind of touched on a little bit of everything. So if you didn't get a chance to check that out, y'all check that one out. It was a pretty good show. We also talked, in part we mentioned and brought up the Alante Taylor contract. Now, Alante Taylor is unrestricted. We still have a Chris Olave on a deal for an extra year for the Saints for $15 million, right? Alante Taylor is unrestricted. So I'm getting the feelings about Alante Taylor that more than likely Alante Taylor probably won't be coming back. We'll see how that's handled, but we'll see how the Saints handle the negotiation with Chris Olave and Alante Taylor, but you might not be able to bring them back. Then there are other secondary and secondary players that you will want to return, like Luke Fortner, Audric Estime, and several others who, Chris Rumpf II, and other players, maybe another issue or a deal for Julian Blackman. Some of these other guys who are playing really good that should have earned roles back. I think Isaiah Stallbird, special teams ace, stuff like that, getting some of these guys back because of what their roles were in this past season. But outside of that, the big fish of the pond is Chris Olave and Alante Taylor. And right now, things are kind of dragging on so far. We'll see how they look. Let's get back to Mickey.
No, and is there anything from the season that was super instructive for you? Is there any sort of stuff you went through this year where you're kind of identified, like, I need to change my process here or anything like that?
Oh, no question. I think that's the beauty of what we're going through right now is, Mickey's kind of alluding to this whole offseason process. It's just a really awesome opportunity to grow as a team, certainly myself individually, to just go back through the entire season, our entire process from the offseason program to how we went through the draft process, all the way leading into the season. And so there's definitely opportunities to grow, get better. I feel like credit to our guys, again, like we've said a lot. The people that we have in this building are really special. And I think that's certainly the foundation of this, from the connection between the personnel department, the coaching, everyone else that works in this building from a day-to-day process, the players, the buy-in, the connection, I think is really, really special. And so if you start there and just keep getting better, we'll be on the right path.
There was a lot of fluctuation when you get to the roster, whether it be trades or injuries. How much did that impact developing the offense at the pace you wanted to?
Say that again, sir.
The fluctuation of the roster came to injuries and trades. How much did that fluctuate and maybe alter the timeline of developing the offense the way you wanted to?
I just say that's going to happen every single year. Injuries, adjustments to the roster, and just your ability to pivot is really important. And so certainly we feel like there's a lot of opportunities to grow, to get better collectively. And I think that's the beauty of what this offseason is going to provide us, is just a really clean platform to use last year as an excellent resource to evaluate it, dig into everything, and then find a really good path moving forward.
This is true, man. I really appreciate how Kellen Moore eventually were able to use some of these guys, like especially the offensive line. To be truthful with the family members, we always for this entire season, we did the entire season film work, study and breakdown. We from start to finish. We seen how the first month or 2 months how the offensive linemen were blocking with all five of the starters there was a lot different than what we seen on the back end of the season when we had two or three backups in there. You seen Audric Estime, a fourth string running back, carving out yardage, running in between, giving balance to the Saints in the back of the season. Really positive. The trade that brung a really good, solid trade that brung Luke Fortner in from the Jacksonville for Bink Saunders was a big, major trade. A lot of people not talking about that move. Like we talk about the fact that the Saints did trade for Divine Gacho, who to me had a very down year. Didn't like how he played toward the back end, and they kind of pulled him out of there. Had other guys playing. He had no impact. He wasn't, he just he didn't look good. The Saints moved his ass out of there, put other people. Nate Shepard stepped up, started balling out. You seen more Jonathan Bullard than you seen any of him in there. So that trade, we gave up. I think it was a 7-round selection to get him here to kind of help with Coach Staley, but then Coach Staley bring on these other guys that outperformed him. You talk about the Divine Valley trade. You talk about that, but the Luke Fortner trade for Bink Saunders was really big. Getting Fortner here. Fortner looked better with the Saints in the little time we played. Had him here than he looked in all the time he was with the Jacksonville Jaguars. He fit right into that offensive line. He was a really solid backup center, for the Saints. And they were actually able to run the ball and counterbalance to a degree the Saints offense. That's why I'm advocating for them to re-sign Luke Fortner because of the 20-something odd games that Eric McCoy has missed over the last 4 seasons. So the Saints have to do something there. I think Luke Fortner was a great addition and a great move. So little moves like that, picking up Audrey Estime, trading for Divine Valley. They took too long to ultimately get them involved. They made a mistake with Cooks. They finally, they started to correct the mistakes. They learned slow. They learned a little too slow. If they learned a little faster, we could have picked up some wins. But in the end, the process is the process. But at least they did what they were supposed to do. We knew that Brandon Cooks didn't fit. We knew that this other guy couldn't play or that guy couldn't play. But they did what it was necessary to make the defense good. They improved the offense. They gained an identity. And that's the positive part about it, right? That's the positive in my book.
Well, certainly, we feel great about the staff. It's an awesome staff. Really appreciate these guys coming together. And, you always have to stay ready for different adjustments. We have a really talented staff, and so you got to be ready for the opportunities that may arise for these guys. And so we'll go through that whole process as we go through this. But it's been a really good staff.
For both you guys, just how much did it alter the vision after Derek decided to retire? And just what was that like kind of going through just like a complete change of plan at that time?
Well, I would say that it just catches you a little bit off guard, and so you got to kind of recalibrate. Okay, what's
wasn't
our plan going
surprised.
forward. Early in the off season, it's different than
Mickey don't get surprised. He get caught off guard.
it is later, and then I don't know. It's hard to describe really. It's a good question, but it just changes your course a little bit. That's really the best way to describe it.
I knew I told y'all that, man, when the season was going on, and maybe I got a extra sense on it that these people don't have. But when you study behavior patterns like I do, people tend to fall into those certain amount of patterns. I knew, and I said it then, once Dennis Allen was fired, that I did not think that Derek Carr would stand before the mighty Who Dat Nation as their starting quarterback. A lot of people were lined up against him because he made it really difficult for himself in the media. A lot of double speak, and it just the Who Dat Nation is very clear. We do not, when it comes down to people, we know who the people is, and if you're a phony, we'll call you out. And he did a lot of stuff, not everything, but he did a lot of stuff that was just not cool, like him blaming the wide receivers from running the wrong routes when it was turning out that he was the person that was throwing the ball where it wasn't supposed to go. him being protected from blame, him not studying the tape correctly, where he just staring people down, him not taking responsibility for throwing hospital balls, all this kind of stuff. It was just a nasty, trifling spirit the guy had that really rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. Despite the fact that he was supposed to be this guy that goes to church and all that, but who they got more in that in be hanging around in the church trying to throw people off. That's where a lot of the a lot of the rottens go to try to absolve and mess with the people trying to get their work done. But outside of that, I'm not calling him that. All I'm saying is that he had a nasty, trifling spirit of not taking enough accountability to be a leader of men on the football field. It just wasn't good enough because people will call you out. That's the first thing they're looking for as a quarterback, as a leader, is for you to take responsibility, and you don't have to be forced with it. Like, you take the bows and arrows right away. You take them right away and you keep it, you be real and tell the people the honest God, honest truth. That's what you're supposed to do. He didn't do that, and it rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, man, to the point where I knew that man wasn't going to come back as a starting quarterback without Dennis Allen there protecting them. And then they had other quarterbacks he had to compete with. He did not want that. He wanted the room alone. And that's not what's going to happen. So I applaud him for leaving. It was a bad fit. And he was like, what, 15 or 16 or whatever the crappy record he had. It stunk. For 100, whatever we paid the man, it was ridiculous. A big amount of money for them piddling ass wins. It was just a bad experiment with a bad coach with Dennis Allen. It just didn't make any sense. And it was time for him to go.
Conversation with that, do you think he could possibly play again, and how would that impact the organization? You all have the rights to him?
I mean, he's on our retired list, so no, I haven't had any conversations with him.
Ain't no need to.
And then Kellen, you navigated this first season and came in. I'm sure you had a plan to how you were going to handle some of the adversity you did. Was it more difficult? Was it what you expected? I mean, just kind of take us through where you were at maybe a year ago.
Ain't no need to talk to Carl.
I think it's something we talked about. I think that's the thing that acknowledge it going into the season. We can be in a playoff run right now. We would have already faced adversity as well. Every team faces adversity. So I think it's how you handle adversity and how you're prepared for it and having the right
Absolutely.
people. And
Right.
certainly we went through some tough stretches. We had a couple 4-game losing streaks in there. And I think the beauty of it was the way our guys responded, the way this building operated. You would have never thought that, And certainly we've all been exposed to different buildings, different structures, maybe have had more challenges in those situations. I think the people aspect of this thing was really special. And so, when you talk about some of those leaders, their willingness to embrace some change, some adjustments, some things that maybe feel different than what they're used to. And, when those guys follow that, certainly the young guys will follow that lead.
How much does that help you to just know that you can brainstorm around pieces that the ones that you have now are going to be there? Because I assume that changed on you last year too, that you're kind of envisioning one thing you have to adjust. Like, just knowing some stuff settled, does that help you just with what you're doing?
I think it's a great opportunity in the offseason to have some solidified, guys in place that certainly you can build around, and I think that's what's great. We have a season of plenty of highs and lows. A lot of good film out there, a lot of good things that we can improve on, and we get to go through this thing collectively as a group and kind of paint the picture of what this thing needs to look like moving forward. And so, coaches certainly will do a lot of that. Players will be a part of that process as we go through this, and there's a lot of excitement around that.
Mickey, how high is it on your list? Because I know you obviously have to do a whole process of evaluating what you need, what your plan is. How high is it on your list to get an extension with Chris Olave done? And are you optimistic that you guys will be able to do that?
Well, Chris is obviously an important player to us, and had a really good season, but we haven't even really spent much time thinking about that right now. I mean, we've had a couple conversations with his agent, but that's part of that'll be part of this offseason. I can't tell you how high it is or low it is. I don't have the whole list yet.
Kellen, are there any specific players that require?
See the energy on that? That's what I'm saying. It's like Alontae Taylor had a lot of positive stuff there. His coverage is not all that, man. His coverage skills need much improvement, but him tackling, coming up, playing that position, he did a lot of positive stuff. Like that DB linebacker type flashing, coming in on the blitz, making plays, batting balls down. He himself said he left a lot of interceptions out there on the field. But like he's saying, it's not. He had a couple of conversations here or there. The Saints and this really Mickey Loomis, they don't negotiate with multiple people at the same time. Mickey Loomis likes talking to one player at a time, negotiating. That's what he said before. even though they have other people there like Kai Harley and all these people. I guess Mickey likes to be involved in those situations. But the bottom line is there is no, it doesn't have the same energy. Like we've talked, they've been discussing the Chris Olave thing for months right now. Nothing is becoming of it. Perhaps something will happen, but the Alante Taylor situation is kind of looking a little different. You know what I mean? Here it looks different. So we'll see how it all goes, man, and how it all rounds out. But me, yeah, it's looking kind of iffy. So if Alante is not that guy, man, there are guys in the draft that they can pivot to if that's the case. But we're just gonna have to wait and see how that's handled.
While we have this offseason, anybody who could potentially miss any of the summer program?
I don't think anyone that should necessarily impact training camp that was in addition to people that already had injuries prior to the during the season. Nothing on the back end of the season necessarily, but that's what NFL seasons are. There's plenty of guys that'll go through a lot of cleanups and different things through the next week or two, and those guys will go on that process. OTAs, some guys go through a little bit of a process where they're working their way back, but training camp looks like a lot of optimism that a lot of guys will be available and ready to go.
What did Taysom Hill's injury end up being? The shoulder?
Yeah, just the AC.
Last year when you got hired, you singled out certain players, and Alvin was one of them. Do you still have the same belief? Obviously people say, oh, we're running back over 30, what's happened the last 2 years? Is it more injury and circumstances? Like, you still have the same belief in Alvin?
Yeah, I love Alvin. What Alvin's meant to this organization has been awesome. He's come in, he's put in a ton of work. Obviously, these seasons all take different paths, and he's had to navigate an injury, and so the most important thing for him is just to get healthy and be back to his self. And so he's done a really good job of leading this group and providing that leadership. And so excited for him.
What are your impressions, Mickey, overall of the rookie class, the way that Quincy stepped up, the way that Devin, but even some people else, Tyler Shuck, Kelvin Banks, and everyone included?
Yeah, I think that I think all of us would say we're pretty excited about the group as a whole. The things that they did, sometimes under different circumstances. Kelvin coming in, moving right to left tackle. He had some really good flashes during the course of the season. Obviously, there's room for improvement. Tyler, what he's done, that's been the focal point, I think, in the media about Tyler. But what Jonas Anker and you definitely see. Who am I missing?
Yeah.
Yeah, Danny Stutzman. I mean,
Yeah.
all these guys have really stepped up and done a great job. They've been professional about the way they've approached their craft. Even Vernon Broughton, who we didn't get a chance to see a lot of because he got hurt pretty early. I think we're excited about his prospects. Maliki at tight end, Fidel. I mean, all of them just to a man. I think we're really excited about this class and have a lot of high hopes for them going forward.
Very solid class, man. Very solid class. We talked about it all year long. Kelvin Banks Jr. is going to be awesome at the left tackle position with Tali Fuaga. But this 2025 class was awesome. Tyler Shuck is the franchise quarterback. Kelvin Banks is his blindside tackle. You also have Devin Neal, who was actually doing a really good job at the running back job until he got hurt, providing depth there behind Alvin Kamara when Kendre Miller was hurt. You have Maliki Matavo, who was a 7th-round draft pick from UCLA. You can see toward the last 2 or 3 games him getting there, blocking, catching the ball with his hands. 6'8" tight end with his big quarterback to help out. You got the Vernon Brockton, a raw 3rd-round draft pick, who's just a nonstop player, strong. He's raw, but at the same time, he's going to be a guy, man, next year to keep an eye out for. With Brian Bursey operating on 1-year deal, Vernon Brockton and him together could be the future. But you underpin them with guys like Jonathan, you bring in guys like like Bullard, and bring him back, and guys like the big fella that we picked up from the Commanders, Giant Ridgeway, and others. The kind of interior to breed and you're going to add some guys in the draft, but outside of that, Quincy Riley, who started at the nickel position, took Isaac Yidom's job. Jonas Sanker, who started after the injuries occurred to Julian Blackman after retirement of Tyrann Mathieu, just phenomenal. And then you go on and on and on, with Sanker. You talk about Danny Stutzman, who had over 50 plus tackles this year in a co-starter role with Pete Werner. So Fadil Diggs, who was balling out in preseason, he is every bit of what Chris Rump II could be for you coming up soon. So a very solid draft class. If the Saints could do this again, they'll be doing something very positive. on the other side. So it's a lot of positive stuff to talk about there.
Better classes in a while. Was there anything that you identified in your classes to those players that changed from how you were, or is it the introduction of the new coaching staff to get their input? Or anything kind of led to a better hit rate on overall?
Yeah, look, we've had some really great classes, 2006, 2017 come immediately to mind, but there's been some other ones as well. So, it's gonna, you're gonna have years where, man, it seems like everyone's working out and doing well, and this is early. We shouldn't be judging our draft class after 1 year. We need to wait a few years, but we're pretty optimistic at this point. And some of that's circumstantial, like Jonas got his opportunity, Quincy got their opportunity because of injuries and circumstance, and so sometimes you have years where you have draft picks that don't get those opportunities, and so it takes a while for them to be able to perform. So, but we're excited about it. Is the bottom line.
Yeah, pressures of Chase Young's season has the contract he got on the last
Yeah. Well, my first impression is I wish he would have been able to play 17 games because I think when he came back after week 5, that really impacted our defense. And the way they performed from that point forward was pretty spectacular, I thought. And Brandon Staley and the entire coaching staff did a great job. The players bought into the scheme and the system, and just every week it felt like they got better and better, and all the way through the end of the season. So that was impressive.
Kellen, how would you describe?
I ain't kidding, man. Staley really turned it around. You remember early on, the Saints was getting ran on by the running attack. They were, and then like I said, I have I don't have a short, I'm not short, vision person. I remember from start to finish, from weeks 1 all the way to weeks 18, how the defense looked, not being able to stop the run consistently, pass rushing irresponsibly without closing the gaps, not blitzing and allowing people to leak out stupidly and picking up yardage. That all changed. The blitz schemes changed. And it changed because the players and the coaches got more familiar. The coaches and players found out what plays work for the players. You see what I'm saying? The communication between the guys on the ground and the guys calling the plays. It all worked together. Same way on offense. It took some time. It took a little bit more time than we wanted to see because it did not end in a way where it was successful where we had a postseason run. But you cannot dispute the success that the team made from the defensive standpoint, where it was when the season started to where the season ended. They were firing out on cylinders. You've seen guys have career years, in Staley. You've seen Chase Young, a guy with immense talent who could not stay healthy, missed 4 or 5 games of this regular season and still had 10 sacks on the back, and he balled out of control. You've seen Quincy Riley and Jonas Sanker have success. You've seen the rookies I just talked about. You've seen various veterans like Chris Rump and Bullard, guys like Bullard operate in internally the defensive line and on the outside edges have success. So you've seen players around having success offense, through the defense there. So it's a lot to be talked about, and you got to give Staley a lot of credit, man, because it didn't look like much early on, but they all learned together and they figured it out, and it looks a lot better.
Working with Brandon Staley and the job he did, especially like Mickey said, once Chase Young came back in the second half of the season.
Yeah, I just give a ton of credit to our defensive staff. You can see the improvement, like Mickey was saying, throughout the season. Their ability to connect. It was a staff that a lot of people from different places, and so getting together and coming together and getting alignment, I thought was critical, and I thought they just did an excellent job of that. And their adaptability, I thought they did a really good job as the season progressed. Adaptability, willingness to adjust, based off kind of matchups and personnel and all that fun stuff. But we got a bunch of really good people, and so I felt great about it.
You talked about it multiple times before, but what has been that special factor for Kellen that's allowed him to continue to win week in and week out?
Yeah, I think he's just really, truly at the end of the day, he's a humble, hardworking guy. He doesn't let mistakes snowball. To go play left tackle in this league as a rookie and to play as many hard downs as he's had to play against some of the premier players in the league. That's as hard as it is. That's as hard as it goes, and his willingness to just go for it, embrace it, get better each week. Tons of credit to him, and we're fired up to have him.
Several players, veteran or otherwise, have kind of expressed a desire to be a part of what's being built here. What does that mean to you, and how do you go about creating sort of that environment that players want to be a part of?
Yeah, no, I certainly think it comes down to people. It comes down to having really, really good people in the building, which certainly I think from an evaluation process, we've just put a ton of emphasis in for a number of years, and that's allowed us to have the type of locker room we have. And and then just the consistency of how our players, how our coaches, how everyone operates from a day-to-day basis. I think hopefully it creates an environment that allows everyone to be their best.
Mickey, was there ever a serious consideration of bringing in a veteran quarterback after Derek retired, or did you guys kind of right away feel like let's go with the other guy?
Well, the timeline didn't fit that. I think the veteran quarterbacks that you would bring in and compete for your the position were pretty much all gone.
Yeah.
By the time that all got settled out. So, yeah, we had some discussions about that, but the opportunity really didn't exist.
And then part two of that is, I mean, did you leave it up to Kellen and the coaching staff, or did you guys have long discussions about the ideal timeline for Tyler and all that, or like once you give them their roster, that's completely up to them? And then did you like the way that ended up playing out, obviously?
Are you talking about in terms of when Tyler played?
At the beginning of the season,
Yeah.
coming in.
So, I mean, who is starting, who is playing is a coach's decision. But certainly we had a lot of discussions about that during training camp, during the season. But yeah, obviously I like the way that turned out. I think.
First and foremost, you can see how Kellen felt about that. Kellen, did you see his face? Kellen felt a little slighted. I've been saying this to people for years, man, that Mickey Loomis Mickey Loomis is not a meddling general manager. Mickey Loomis, and I've said this for whatever, he's shown this for over the last three times he's hired people. He doesn't meddle in the staff, regardless if he's so comfortable in his position in the New Orleans Saints organization. It's a very unique situation because he's not fortunate like a lot of other executives is. He's like family. He's a guy that he's unfireable, in many cases. Mickey Loomis has two jobs. He has immense job security. And it would take for her to sell the team to somebody else to get for that type of stuff to get shaken up, where he could be on the way out. You see what I'm saying? This is a total different world here in the city of New Orleans as far as Mickey Loomis is concerned. But this is the thing that I really like about Mickey Loomis is the fact that he does not meddle in the affairs of the coaches that he hires. Now, if the coach come to Mickey, and Mickey will do anything to get you the personnel that you need, and he will even lie and cover up for you when you fail. But he's not going to put any requirements on you. He's not going to do any of the stuff. He's going to hire you and let you do the job. He's not going to be looking over your shoulder. He's not going to be doing any of that stuff. So Kellen Moore was the one that should be given respect for everything that was going on with his team. And you could kind of see when he was asking that question, he kind of dipped his head down a little bit. Like, man, these people thinking I'm some type of, like I ain't making a decision. Like this man telling me what to do. You can kind of see it in his face. Look at his face. Look at his face. Like these fucking people thinking I'm not doing this. Like somebody else telling me what to do. That's kind of disrespectful. That question was, man. Because I've been saying this for a long time, and I don't know if these reporters know it or not, but I've been saying it along. He doesn't meddle in the coaching affairs. He doesn't tell you what to do. He leaves the team to you and will even lie for you. That's what Mickey Loomis will do. And he hired Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore making all these decisions. All of the decisions, the personnel decisions, the drafting decisions is Kellen Moore and his staff. And Mickey Loomis, he tells Mickey Loomis what he's going to do, and he tells Mickey Loomis what he wants to do, and Mickey will go out and do it for him. That's the bottom line. But that is all Kellen Moore. That ain't Mickey Loomis.
I think it was a great way to approach it, and I think Kellen and his staff did a great job of developing the position. We got it wasn't just one young guy. We got three young guys in that room, and that's a difficult proposition for as a coach. And I thought they handled it perfectly.
Is that going to be a big possibility for this offseason?
That's the head of what the coaches say. I mean, the proper speak would have been, man, that's Kellen. I mean, you got to give all the world the credit to Kellen Moore. Of course, Mickey Loomis wants to take some comeuppance for hiring Kellen Moore. But if he takes comeuppance for hiring Kellen Moore, you got to take these comeuppance for not wanting to fire Dennis Allen. So you can't take the good and without taking the bad that comes along with it. But Kellen Moore is the guy that's responsible for adding these coaches. He's the one that bringing these players in. He's the one that allowing his defensive and special teams coaches to ask for resources, and he's fulfilling their obligations. And he's the one that's coming up with this game plan. It's not Mickey Loomis. That's not even what Mickey Loomis does.
Your guy like a veteran who's been there, done that, that can potentially.
It's a good question. We You're always trying to raise the level of a room, trying to get better, trying to improve. I think one guy in that room that kind of lose sight is like Taysom was in that room the entire year. He's been in some of the best quarterback rooms in the entire NFL, and his leadership, what he brought to those guys, even when he's playing his role where he plays every other position, he brought an excellent form of leadership to those guys and experience that they were able to lean into.
Kellen, Cam DeMar already said he wants to play in 2026. Have you talked to Taysom about whether he wants to play in 2026 or retirement possibility?
We'll talk through all that process. I think for all these players, I think the goal really is, I'm just appreciative of their work. That's the most important thing. And then the offseason is the offseason for a reason. You let the emotions get away from all these seasons and all that sort of stuff, and then take some time. And we'll have plenty of discussions, with everyone.
What is the timeline for y'all's sort of evaluation process this year? Do you usually kind of take a week away and do how do you plan to do it?
Yeah, saying we're gonna get the next 10 days, and I think Kellen's letting the staff take the next 10 days or so. They'll come back and we'll walk through the evaluations, their evaluations of the players, and then from that we'll start generating our off-season plan.
Notice he said their evaluations, because we've been there so many times before. Mickey Loomis will say they're doing evaluations, but he'll never tell you exactly what the evaluations are. Like there'll not be a follow-up show which will then say to you, yeah, we did our evaluations, we're determining this and this. He's not going to give you an update on that. I mean, this is stuff that we've seen before with Mickey Loomis. From every off season, the guy comes, he just doesn't give any really good evaluations. He takes a long time to look at things. And my point was, as a general manager, you're supposed to be making evaluations from week to week. That's the point of a general manager, to generally manage the team. He's more VP to GM. The GM will make sure you have by the end of the season, you'll have evaluations in place. Like a good scouter has been evaluating his team from weeks 1 all the way to week 18, and they have personal scores or personal scouting reports and recommendations on whether or not certain players should be brought back. You see what I'm saying? Those are the evaluations. So he's talking about doing, them meeting down the line. End of the season pressers usually mean you got an end of season evaluation, end of season information. It's always a bit of incompleteness when dealing with Mickey Loomis, because he don't do evaluations from week to week. He believes that his job stops during the on season, and when the off season, then he can move and do what he got to do. And that's the problem with having him as a VP and GM. We need an active general manager, not a VP masquerading as a general manager. That's why I'm for him being chopped off from the general manager position, allowed to keep the VP but not the GM. That's my point of contention.
Because then there's another opportunity to start. Difficult here getting Tyler. Would you be open to moving in? Did he express an interest in being traded out of?
No, I mean, we're not anywhere in that. We haven't had any kind of discussions about that.
Mickey, what role do you think, patience and not being overly reactionary is playing? You've built this thing, possibly 3 times now over the last couple of decades, just not overreacting to the noise and giving guys time to do their job and grow, and maybe not even pushing, hey, you got to get the young quarterback in there like some teams do. How much do you think that helps with building this organization?
How much does it help? I mean, I don't know that I can answer that. It's just, that's really, I probably am overly patient. Sometimes your greatest strengths become become a weakness. And so I'm really patient, I feel like. And, whether it helps or not, hopefully it does. I think it does, but, I'll continue to be that way. Again, we're excited about Tyler. You're all excited about Tyler. We're excited about Tyler, but we have to remember that he hasn't had 17 starts yet. And so we're going to go into next season with these high expectations. And there's nothing wrong with that, but we also have to temper that by the fact that he's a rookie, not a rookie, he's a second-year quarterback, and he's had less than a full season to start. So we got to keep that in mind as we go forward, that, there's building blocks here, and we cannot skip any steps.
I'm going to go ahead and just
The impatience of the people is the fact that it's been 5 years for this to be happening, for everything to come around. I think that's what a lot of people are being on. And there's an excitement, and rightfully so. When you have respectable football, things happen. But we've seen young quarterbacks experience success very early on. We've seen what happened to C.J. Stroud down in Houston land, where Houston was able to get win playoff games or participate in the playoffs early on in his career. So we've seen young quarterbacks step into the NFL, and every situation is different. But it also shows that success can happen with a young quarterback. Now, yes, I agree with tempering expectations because the Saints have to then be about the business in 2026 of adding another solid draft class and free agency class along with Tyler Shuck to make sure they keep this thing going. That's the point right there that needs to be understood.
On that exact thing, by maybe getting a little overexcited about Tyler, but
Yeah.
when you have somebody who does have some outfit at that position,
Yeah.
is that like an attractive part and bring people to the organization? Like I
Yeah.
there's a lot of other things go into that.
Well, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think, for example, in free agency, and I'm not going to necessarily use Tyler as an example, but players want to go to a place where they think they can be successful, and part of that success is definitely winning. And if you have a quarterback prospect or a quarterback that you feel really good about, obviously that's attractive. It's attractive for coaches, it's attractive for players as well, and helps you in that free agency process. That with Drew, and it happened really right after we got him. And then obviously as the years went on and he got better and better and put up these spectacular years, then you go to the top of the list of places where players want to come to and coaches want to come to. So yes, it definitely is a benefit.
You're going back to the transitionary time whenever Tyler did move into the own bench for Kellen to switch him over there.
Well, I think that's a question for Kellen.
Yeah, no, I think as we've, what I think Tyler did an excellent job of is, Spencer earned the right to start coming out of training camp. That was first and foremost. I think everyone was aligned on that. Spencer earned the opportunity. I thought Spencer played some really good football early in the season. I think he gave us an opportunity. We didn't win games enough, but he gave us a lot of really good opportunities. And then Tyler just had a really good vision and plan to get better. And whether it's in the classroom, whether it's being a scout team quarterback, his preparation, he was always ready for the opportunity to present itself. And so I think it was certainly a healthy combination of feeling like, we can take another step, we can get better from an offense collectively. But I thought also Tyler, more importantly, felt like he'd taken some steps that he was ready to, have an opportunity to play. And, I thought he did some really good things. There were still some bumpy roads, like we played some games that were still hard early when he started, and he just kept staying steady, kept getting better. And, I thought he grew as those opportunities presented themselves.
Let me tell you something. If Kellen Moore was very meticulous in how he decided to roll out, Tyler Shuck. And the reason why that's important because there were games, right? The last two starts with Spencer Rattler was really tough games, right? But Kellen Moore is a really intelligent guy. He was watching Shuck at practice at the scout team. They knew when it was time to roll that man out. So letting Spencer Rattler take the blow, whatever you want to call it, in these games was a smart method because you couldn't do it in reverse. Meaning that if you started Tyler Shuck at the start of the season against some of them tough teams and they rattled him, blitzed him, and they gave him some real tough treatment, and he was getting knocked around and his record was 1-6 or 7 or something like that, you couldn't then pivot and say, okay, we're going to keep him in there for the summation of the entire year. People would have been calling for Spencer Rattler because the energy was different. Everybody was riding with Spencer Rattler. He understood that. The crowd energy and the people wanted to see Spencer Rattler. Spencer did edge him for the job, but it was the proper way to handle the QB situation because you could not do it in reverse. Meaning that if you started Shuck and Shuck struggled, you would then have to pivot to Spencer Rattler. You see what I'm saying? So he handled it the proper way. And while all that was going on, Tyler Shuck was on the scout team practicing, getting reps in. That's how him and Kevin Austin Jr. have this repartee, and some of these other wide receivers were scout team wide receivers he was throwing to. So they knew when it was the right time to go to Tyler Shuck. He wasn't perfect, but he had benefited by being on a scout team, by being in the meetings, running and doing what he was supposed to do. And then when the time came, he stepped forward and he handled his business. And that was proper timing by Kellen Moore. You got to give him that.
Yeah, he's got better. He's got better each week. I thought his ability to respond to some adverse situations, I think, was a really good indication of his ability to play football at a really high level in this league. And, when you throw an interception at Miami, you respond and play really good football in the second half and give yourself opportunities and then respond again the next week, at Tampa, in really rainy, challenging conditions. and run the football for 6 times. Did a good job of getting better.
Maybe this is probably too soon for this, but Terry Fontenot, just maybe trying to get him back or.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't thought about anything like that. You know, I'm disappointed for Terry. I thought he did some really good things there. I think, you know, he built a really good roster, but you know, sometimes those things don't work out. I feel bad for Terry and his family. I think the world of Terry Fontenot. I think he's a fantastic, you know, football administrator, and he'll land on his feet. He'll end up whatever he ends up deciding to do, and wherever he goes, whatever team ends up with him, they're gonna be lucky to have him.
And just going back to the Trevor Penning trade from the deadline, what do you kind of take as a lesson and executive when that happens? Just his development overall, trying to make pole position, drafting him. Like, what do you kind of take from that as an executive?
Well, you know, I think. Listen, he's not the first player that we drafted that our vision for him didn't really fit what his skill set was ultimately, and the development timeline didn't fit, and so that happens sometimes. And you go back and you look at it. Okay, what did we miss? I mean, we'll go through that. We've gone through that process. We'll go through it again. And look, I still think he has an opportunity to be a successful player in the league. It just didn't work out with us.
Mickey, what's your kind of take on your assets that you have this offseason? Another top 10 pick in the draft, maybe some more cap flexibility like that. How do you feel about where that's at?
Yeah, I mean, I feel good about that. I think we're going to have an opportunity to impact our team, and I'm excited about you know, I'm excited about the draft class that's coming up. You know, discussions I've had with Jeff and his staff. There's a lot of players that will fit us at a lot of different positions, so I'm excited about that. I think the depth of this draft class right now looks pretty good. And I think we're going to be in a position to kind of take the best player that's available that can impact our team, as opposed to, we have to have, you know, this position or that position. Obviously, there'll be positions that we prefer, but I don't think we're going to be in a position where, hey, we have to get, you know, this particular position. So I'm excited about that.
Does that up the odds at all, the ever elusive possible trade back? If there is, you have to go in direction?
Yeah, it helps the odds, yes. It does.
Kellen, I know it's going to take a thorough review before you have your list, your priority list, but is first quarter offense, start of game offense, and you already know that that's going to be something you're going to have to do a deep dive on and figure out.
I'll certainly be on the list of items we just want to evaluate, and that's just collectively as a football team in all three phases, just starting faster. Obviously, we can see the numbers. We recognize the impact it had on some of these games, and we see a lot of the good football we played in some of these other quarters, and if we can marry that up with the way we start, you know, we'll be in a great position.
Mickey, do you get a sense of the optimism around town for this, even in a 6-win season, the optimism around town? How do you process that? What do you feel about that? Do you pay attention to that at all?
Well, look, you can't probably be in a coma if I didn't recognize that there's optimism, and that's exciting. Look, I want our fans to feel optimistic and have a vision for, you know, the same vision that we have for our team. So yes, I
probably be in a coma, the sports coma. Yeah, Mickey Loomis understands what's going on, just like he understands when it's not going on. If you could feel the optimism, you could feel the disgust as well. And that's something he said that he doesn't register, he doesn't pay attention to. I've been saying that it's not true. You would have to definitely be in a coma to not be able to see the sense of the people that is supporting your team. So it's good to know that. But indeed, it's good football. That's why people are excited about it.
I'm excited about that, just like I'm excited about our team. But I think one of the things that I do pretty well is tune out the noise when it's negative, and I think it's equally important to tune out the noise when it gets optimistic too. You have to, you know, find that balance, and you know, I think that's one of the areas that I do a good job with.
Tuning out the noise when it's too negative, it's too positive. You don't tune it out when it's too positive. Cut it out. This guy.
Yeah, I think we had a lot of moving pieces there, and so I thought, you know, from a punter battle, you know, that kind of went through all training camp, made a change at the kicker position midway through the season. You know, Sheed obviously with the trade, you know, halfway through the year, so we did have a lot of moving pieces there, and so I thought I did a really good job of helping a lot of young players get ready and prepared to contribute on our football team in the special teams that we're a little bit new to that aspect of football, and so you know, are there areas that we want to improve on and get better? Absolutely, and that's certainly something we'll do in all three phases.
Kellen, how would you assess just your first season of just in game as a head coach, that balance of calling
Olave, also kind of taking the full view of like what's going on in the game situations. How did you feel you did in this first year?
Yeah, like every area, there's going to be things that you're going to look back and want to improve on and get better and improve our process collectively as a football team and certainly as a staff. And so, I'm going to go through that whole process as well. I thought, calling plays and then managing the game management aspect of it. Obviously, you don't do that until you do it. And, so I feel like our process has gotten better, and we'll continue to try and improve that.
Did you feel like you had comfort as a season, especially at the second half season? Did you feel like you had more comfort doing that?
Yeah, I think just, we had more time together on that task. We had more conversations. We were more prepared to be proactive in some situations, and so certainly feel better.
When you talk about special teams, like when a player like Loomis who probably been into the season the quarter and then becomes a starter, how does that impact that special teams group?
Yeah, I think the injury factor, is a big part of this. Our vision of Jonas is he's going to be a 4-core special teamer, and after 1 week, he's our starting safety, and he plays a ton of snaps there. And so, obviously, there was a next man up component of this, and so certainly some younger players that were able to contribute on special teams that maybe started on practice squad or started as kind of an inactive player that quickly became the key contributors there. I thought those guys got better as the season went on. They embraced those roles, and I'm excited for the growth opportunities that those guys have.
All the players talked about how they had trust and love to playing better Brandon State. How much confidence and ease did it give you during your first year having a defensive coordinator who could take care of that side of the ball for you?
Yeah, Brandon's done a phenomenal job for us. Obviously, my experience with him in the past, was a great resource, with our opportunity to team up together in Los Angeles for that 1 year. And so I thought Brandon did an excellent job of working with a staff that obviously, again, came from a number of different places, created an alignment. And then I thought the players and the coaches had a really good combination of buy-in and working really well together.
Maybe the projections when it comes to the salary cap number for 2026 still show what would be an overage for all in that area, but the amount is sort of light work as compared to what you've had to deal with in the past or navigate in the past. Does that change at all? Not necessarily signings and things like that, but the restructure plans, does that change at all sort of how you go about maneuvering around getting to lines?
Yeah, I think just the volume of things that we need to do is really what changes. Those numbers, when you look at them at the end of the season for any team, there's a lot of nuance behind all of it, because you just see a number, you don't see how many players are under contract, how many voids exist, how many of these, balloon numbers exist for the next year that you knew all along you weren't going to, that wasn't going to be their contract. So there's a lot of nuance to it, but obviously over the last 2 or 3 years, those things that we have to do to get under the cap have diminished, and this will be it'll be the lightest work that Kai has to do over the last couple of years.
And it's no nuance, Mickey. I mean, come on, bro. They got literally all kind of, really accurate cap resources over the cap, Sporak. There's literally a bunch of references from a contractual standpoint that follow us extremely, extremely accurate. And if you look at some of those, they follow it really good. So those resources have helped educate people on contracts, on reworking of contracts, knowing whose contract is voiding, how many voided years. You can literally go on over the cap. It'll show you all of the Saints players' voided years, the contract, the active contract ending, and the restructured phantom year contract deals that Mickey Loomis has signed for the team. And as you know, he mentioned Kai Hartley. See, Kai Hartley is doing everything a general manager is doing, except for without the title. See, Mickey Loomis is fortunate to be able to be the VP and hog the general manager title, while Kai acts as an assistant GM, but yet doing most of the stuff that a general manager does. How convenient. But there are also several other people that are there as well that serve in the capacity to assist the assistant general manager. Some of them act as scouts and otherwise. But a lot of what I'm saying is a lot of the people nowadays is more educated than they ever have been before about contracts, keeping up with contracts, knowing what contracts expire, who has voided years in their agreements, knowing how much potentially this player could be offered. You see what I'm saying? So it's not exactly accurate, but it's by far more intelligent than it's ever been before. So there are a lot of resources to be able to keep up with Saints salary, to know exactly how many players actively are under contract and what they're making. So, it ain't, I don't know if this old man know that or not, but you're not sitting on an island no more, bro. People know what you know in terms of the numbers. So that's not exclusive.
Yeah, we're going to definitely feel good about that. And remember that COVID year and
Cut
that
it out,
impact
Mickey.
on our cap and everything.
Cut that out, Mickey.
I mean, that was a blow out of left field for us. And so
Come on with the COVID year, Mickey. That wasn't it. Come on. Everybody had to deal with the COVID year. The whole NFL had to shift to that. The following year, after the COVID stuff ended, then, the NFL's numbers went up again. So you remember the league operates on a revenue sharing model. So what are you talking about? That's an attempt to try to hide the fact that you had a lot of bad contracts that you signed, Mickey. That's not going to work. Stop using the C-19 excuse, brother. We already know about that. You want to talk about the bad contracts you signed, like the Derek Carr contract? You don't want to mention none of that stuff. But this is the type of stuff you won't bring up to make excuses. Cut it out.
had to overcome that, and it takes a while.
Bad contracts in there, man.
Jalen Polk's somebody that y'all were high on going into the draft.
Yeah.
And is that why you wanted to pursue him then to Kellen? Like, what's kind of your vision for him once he's
Yeah, we're definitely high on Jalen in that draft, and I mean, we talked about taking him at certain points, and so obviously doing what took him, and the opportunity came up. They had changing staff there, and we had an opportunity to get him. We knew he's not going to be able to play this year, but just looking with our eye forward, we're really excited about him, and his rehab's gone well, and he's been great in the building, great in the room, and well, come on, take it.
Yeah, again, I think just, excuse me, echoing a lot of the same things. I think really good. He's going to give us, a guy that we all felt really good about. I was in Philly for 2 years ago, and he went through the draft process. Everyone felt really good about Jalen. Again, an example of, sometimes a change of scenery can be really beneficial for someone. He has been excellent this entire process. For our opportunity to kind of go through the rehab process with him here with our guys has been excellent. His work in the classroom where he can still be, around those guys has been awesome. And so I think it's going to provide him an opportunity to be just so much further ahead when he gets to the spring ball where, he's not going through that transition now. He's already gone through that process. And so obviously we feel like he's going to be able to play a really beneficial role for us.
And that was the thing too, because this will be interesting because the Saints gave up, I think it was a 6th-round draft pick to land Jalen Polk, wide receiver Jalen Polk from the New England Patriots. Polk is a 2nd-round draft pick who the Patriots made now, I think last year, not 25, I think it was the year before, that they made for Jalen Polk. So the Saints basically switched a 6th-round pick for a 2nd-round pick. And he had an injury when they took him. So he's a future piece in the wide receiver room. They see great value from Jalen Polk. Bring in Devon Valley, Jalen Polk, and re-signing Chris Olave. Or perhaps, I hope they're not thinking that Polk can provide a insurance policy if Chris Olave's not signed back. But the reality is, based on how this offseason performs, we'll know more of this because the Saints will more than likely. Those would be big spots, signing Chris Olave and Alontae Taylor. If they can't sign both of them, maybe they sign one. I believe that they get Chris back, but not Olave. I don't think Chris Olave is going to. That's my call. I don't think he will be with the Saints upcoming year. I think the Saints more than likely will pivot somewhere else. But we'll see how it all thins out. But at the bottom line, the Saints made futuristic moves for the wide receiver position, just like they just picked up the big 6'5" wide receiver from Canada. These are futuristic moves that have an impact on the team in 26.
So Drew expected to go into the Hall of Fame. Is there a chance that Mo would request to play in that game, knowing that it's an extra week and an extra preseason game? I don't know if that's good or bad or something that you want to do.
Yeah, well, we thought about that, obviously. And we don't want, I don't want to just assume he's going to get in the Hall of Fame. But yeah, I think that I think it'd be a good thing for our team to experience that, and experience, that whole experience of the Hall of Fame is. I think it's really good for anyone involved in football and anyone who's a fan of football. And the fact that if Drew gets in, I think it'd be a great thing for us to play in that game.
Would that factor into your guys' decision of whether to go away to camp?
Yeah, we'll talk through that whole process. I think that's obviously there's a lot of factors with that, going from what your regular season timeline looks like to certainly what your preseason schedule is going to look like. And so that's an off-season process we'll go through. And obviously we've had a lot of benefits of just the different opportunities we've had.
Maybe you brought Drew and Jari into this organization. Your thoughts on your candidacies for the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, they should be in there. Slam dunk. That's what I think.
Why?
No, I mean, I just think when you look at their body of work over time, two of the most, obviously Drew. Do we even need to talk about Drew's candidacy? We shouldn't. But Jari, I mean, he was one of the most important elements on an offense that had historically, over that time frame, and you've written this, Jeff, like anything seen in the NFL in the history of the league. I mean, that period of time where I think we were number one in offense for 6 times maybe. The amount of points, the amount of yards, just the offensive output, and Jari was a huge part of that. And obviously, I think there's a disadvantage when you play in one of the smaller markets that isn't, no offense to any of you, a media hub. But I think Jari would already be in had he played for the Bears or the Giants or one of these big market teams. He'd already be in. That's what I think.
Do you think his role at guard and the way you all set up the offense around a 6-foot quarterback?
Yeah.
It's kind of overlooked a little bit?
Yeah, I do think it's overlooked, and the interior of the line, I think oftentimes gets overlooked in our league. The importance of the center and guards, and certainly with Drew, keeping that spot, 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage was important to protect that, and Jari and the guys that he played with over the years did a great job during that time frame, and again, Jari was a huge element of that. I think he should definitely be in the Hall of Fame.
New Orleans, since he got drafted, you talked about you staying here, and his wife's pregnant, and talked about a checklist of things. I know you talked about going from here to Texas. Is there anything that you're kind of, your first chance in a few years, maybe sneak into an off-season culturally too?
I've had a few transition off seasons, so I'm excited for this one. This is going to be built off of the previous year. We're excited to just be here and just get to experience the city, the community, Mardi Gras, Pelicans last night, going to that game with the kids. And so we just love that.
What are the next steps for Tyler? You want to do?
Oh, there's plenty of steps. I think, I think again, it's just growth. Just keep getting better, keep communicating at a high level, and so he'll put together, I'm sure, an excellent off-season plan to take advantage of the time that he has.
I'm curious about how you feel about the number of sets. Is that kind of an area where you can get better in terms of starting points?
Yeah, I think that's just a collective thing. I don't think that's necessarily. Does Tyler want to get better? Absolutely. Can we get better from a protection standpoint, play calling standpoint? Obviously, there's plenty of statistical things that we can look at and say, hey, let's get better here.
Into the season, there were players that weren't available due to injury and things like that. Felt more related to timeline than anything else when they got injured. But with this year and coming off of how things were in 2024, where injuries were such a big impact, how do you feel about how that process went in terms of Ted Rath's job and the job that you guys did?
Yeah, I think I think Ted and his staff did a great job. Our soft tissue injury rates were significantly impacted in a good way. Obviously, you don't want any injuries. Some of them were circumstantial. So, I feel pretty good about where we're at. We're going to take a look at it again. The things that the injuries that happened. But I feel really good about that department.
That being said, Kellen, would you approach training camp the same way as you did last year, with the workload?
That's another thing, talking about the injury. The health staff, that was been a major point of contention for both the Saints and the Pelicans going into the season. Has it improved in your estimation? I would have to say slightly. We hadn't quite dealt with as many injuries as we've done. I mean, we had all these lineup changes once again, so the injuries were there. We just adapted better than we did from the past toward the back end of the season, right? We almost in the Atlanta game, we was down to fourth, fifth, and sixth string wide receivers. Our fifth string running backs. We lost Taysom in the game. So there was a lot of factors in there. We were playing with our, second and third string offensive linemen. So, building depth is major league important. But that's a question for you guys to answer. Did we improve from a health standpoint?
Based on how many injuries you had, or is that something that you have to evaluate for a while?
Yeah, I think you have to evaluate it. We have to go back all the way through our process for this last calendar year. Where can we get better? Where can we find more opportunities? There's always a balancing act in training camp. That's our best opportunity for physical practice. And so we do have to have them physical, be a little bit uncomfortable, push through some elements. That's why I like in here, the heat has some pros to that. But we got to get ready for a season, and those seasons are long, and we're expecting those seasons to be even longer moving forward. And so, that's a process that we'll just go through.
Maybe for Cam Jordan to finish with 10.5 sacks after the last few years, what do you think of this season, and do you expect that type of rebound?
Well, nothing that Cam does surprises me. When you've been with someone for 15 years, nothing he does surprises me. his greatest quality is he just is always available. It's a miracle on some level. But he's had lots of these years where he's actually, produced in the second half of a season, better than the early parts. And so I'm not surprised, excited about it, excited for him, excited that he still has the same joy when he comes to work every day. He's always positive. He's always excited. And man, that hasn't changed in 15 years. So, do we expect 10.5 sacks from him? No, I wouldn't say we expected that, but I'm excited for him.
I just want to get your take on Alvin season 2. I know that touched on earlier. I'm just curious on your guys.
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate he got hurt toward the end of the season. But Alvin's always prepared. He's always he's a talented guy. I don't see a lot of difference there. And I haven't had a conversation with Alvin since the season ended, so I'm excited to have that with him and see where where he's at in his mind space. But Alvin's he's been such an important part of our team for the last 9 years, whatever it's been. And he's a talented player, and we have to give him the right opportunities, and we'll see how that goes going forward.
Pretty crazy how Mickey Loomis, Elvin Kamara had a fantastic story where Mickey Loomis walked up to him later on in the year before the trade deadline and asked him, "Is there anywhere you want to go?" And Elvin looked at him and kind of looked behind him and says, "What do you mean? Is there anywhere you want to go?" And he was talking about being traded. And Elvin says, "No, I want to stay." And this was like Elvin Kamara told you like a dozen times by now that I didn't want to go. But Mickey approaches him and asks him that, "Hey, anywhere you want to go?" I don't think that was a joke. You're supposed to joke like that. I don't think Mickey was joking. But you never know, man. If they could be possibly, you got to look at it. Elvin Kamara has 1 year left on his contract in 2026. After 2027, of course, he had voided years and money restructured money the Saints owe him. But then at some point, the Saints will have to pivot and find a leader. Is it Devin Neal? Is it Kendre Miller? Is it somebody else? Is it, Jeremiah Love? I mean, who could it be? At some point, the Saints have to answer that question.
I mean, when you win 4 of your last 5 games like this and have, momentum in a number of ways, what's the biggest positive impact that can have on the coaching staff, on players returning, and all that good stuff?
Yeah, I think it just leads into our offseason program. I mean, in 15 weeks, OTAs start, the phase 1. So it's like for these guys, I think the optimism and the way we finish obviously provides some juice there. And then, it just puts these guys in a position for this offseason. These guys go away, they go do their own thing for a little bit, but it puts them in a position to have a really good plan to get better. And then before you know it, we'll be back together, getting better and taking advantage of that opportunity.
Mickey, the way you rate
Wrap it up with 1 or 2 more questions, please.
The way you rate about Jarvis Evans and his ability to help set up the offense for Drew. You have a taller quarterback now, but you have your tackle short up. How much is the interior of the offensive line going to be a priority?
Yeah, well, I think that the number one thing there is we've got to stay healthy. Eric McCoy is a really, really good player, but he's been injured the last few years, so we have to examine that. Hey, are we putting him in difficult positions? How can we correct that and not let that happen again? Caesar's a really good player, and yet we've got to get more out of him as well. Obviously, Dylan stepped in after Trevor, the Trevor trade. I thought he did a good job. So we'll evaluate that interior offensive line. But and I think, by the way, we had a number of guys step in. Luke came in and played for Eric and did a good job. But we're going to have to evaluate that position, and we've got some free agents there. So it's going to be an area that we pay a lot of attention to in this offseason.
The thing is, we're talking about Cesar Ruiz is the player we've been pinpointing Cesar Ruiz for a long time, not just last year, the year before that. We've been on Cesar Ruiz. We've been challenging Cesar Ruiz. Cesar Ruiz gets beat all the time. We just did a Patreon, the Week 18 matchup against Atlanta. There were several times where he was literally thrown out of the way on the play. His footwork is still not consistent enough. He still is exhibiting poor qualities at times. He's had too many reps to be at this stage of what he is. And that if you want to protect Tyler Shuck and run the ball effectively, he needs to be replaced. Very good player, nothing. He's not very good. Cesar Ruiz is not a very good offensive lineman. I'm sorry. That's not what I would call him. With all the reps that he's received, Cesar Ruiz should be the best offensive lineman the Saints have currently. The Eric McCoy situation is Eric McCoy has missed 20 games in 4 years. They have to, and he was like, they putting him in a tough situation. They're not asking Eric McCoy to do anything that they're not asking the rest of the offensive linemen to do, except for be the center. The problem is Eric McCoy is getting worn down by the physicality of the NFL. That's what's going on. His body is breaking down. And you have to recognize that. That's why Luke Fortner should be resigned. And also, the Saints need to see about perhaps looking at bringing some young help here in the center position as well. When you got a quarterback like Tyler Shuck, why not give him a young center that can play the position? McCoy is getting older. You can't count on him like he used to. He has to be looked at there. And there's obviously a hole at the left guard position. So the interior of the Saints offensive line is in flux as far as I'm concerned. The two bookends is what you got, but you got to fill in the left guard position. You got to fortify the center position with McCoy. With his injuries keep happening, whether you sign Luke Fortner or draft the young guy to groom in the position, and the right guard position needs to be replaced too. Or you bring in a right guard to push Ruiz and challenge him for that right guard spot. And this is what needs to happen going forward to protect the quarterback and to run the ball.
You don't have to do as much work with the new running back practice. So how you be aggressive if you want to be, and go on.
Yeah, I mean, yes, it would. We got to be judicious. We can't just go out there and just start, contracts around and doing things that we wouldn't ordinarily do. But we will have some different opportunities.
You got to be judicious and not just go out there and throw around contracts. The same Mickey Loomis that throws around contracts all the time. All of a sudden, Mickey Loomis wants to be judicious in giving out contracts. That would explain why you don't see why you see the Alante Taylor. That's why I said I don't think Alante Taylor's coming back. Chris Olave, I can see him because of the $15 million that they got to pay him. But the Olave, the Alante Taylor thing, that's a whole nother thing. He's unrestricted. The Saints could simply just pivot and pick up some help in the draft if that's the case. But anyway, fam, that's what it is, man, for the season. That's the end of the season presser from Mickey Loomis. Let's kind of pivot here. Let's look at the schedule. Here's the schedule right here on screen, family. For your viewing pleasure. This is the upcoming schedule for the New Orleans Saints in 2026, right? You can see then the times and dates will be announced, but this is the 2026 schedule that was announced. Saints open up the season, and we'll see here. I think this is it. I'm gonna have to make sure it is the proper schedule. Y'all give me a second. Let me make sure I got this together. Hold on just a second here. And make sure here, because they did announce the future opponents that the Saints will be playing. And let me see if I can pull it up. Let me see. They did mention the opponents the Saints are going to be playing, and here it is right here. Of course, we got the Falcons. These are the home opponents. We'll have the Falcons, our regular people, Falcons, Carolina Panthers, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We'll have them at home. But we also will open up with Arizona, Green Bay, the Raiders, Minnesota, Pittsburgh as well. Those are home matchups. We'll see Cleveland as well. So some struggling teams, the Arizona, Cleveland, Las Vegas. We'll have a tough Minnesota. But Minnesota kind of struggled this year. Pittsburgh is there, as well as Green Bay, who's been always competitive. They're coming to the Dome. And of course, the road opponents, the same NFC South teams, along with Baltimore, going to the cold of Baltimore, depending on when it is. It could be possibly not a late game, but you go to Baltimore. Chicago's doing really well. Cincy, Detroit, the Giants are the teams like in that sphere. So there you go. We got a couple of teams that we'll be heading into. So it'll be an interesting schedule for the team moving forward. Now let's kind of look at the schedule, if you don't mind here. And this is basically from our lads. And this is showing you some of the players that the Saints have impacted. We're talking about bringing back Dante Pettis as a free agent. Kevin Austin Jr. did well. Chris Olave under the $15 million deal remaining there. Then the wide receivers, Samari Torrey, Ronnie Bell. These are the guys that we had actively on the team for the last rip. Kelvin Banks, Dylan Reduce is showing you that he's going to be undrafted, or excuse me, unsigned. He's an unrestricted free agent. So is tackle or offensive center Luke Fortner. It's going to be interesting to see us bringing some of these guys back. We know Dylan Reduce. I don't think so. I think we can do better there. The Saints did trade for Asim Richards, who filled in at the left tackle position when Kelvin Banks Jr. got hurt. But you can see some real good light in players like Matabo. He stepped up. We know Taysom Hill more than likely is going to retire. He's dealing with a shoulder injury. Trayton Welch showed some promise in some parts of the season as well. Audric Estime is a guy that we definitely should bring back. Brian Bresee will be healthy. Jonathan Bullitt should definitely be brought back. Nate Shepard had a strong year. Divine Gacho lost a lot of his playing time because guys just outplayed him. Nate Shepard, Bullard, Jonah Williams, those guys were big for them. John Ridgway even played well than Divine Gacho, and Christian Boyd had more of an impact. So Divine Gacho has got to really clean his act up. Cam Jordan will be resigned and brought back. Carl Grant came alive later on in the season. Chase Young turned it on. Chris Rump II. Will be interesting to see if they bring him back because Fadil Diggs is a guy that is similar in stature and athletic ability to Chris Rump, but Chris Rump does well in that Staley defense. DeMario back for another year. Stutzman balled out. Jalen Ford. We'll see. Isaiah Stallberg needs to be re-signed, and of course, you take a look at our young secondary with Kool-Aid McKinstry and Quincy Riley. Justin Reed, the veteran, Jonas Sanker, and Alante Taylor's a question mark. So we'll see how that fits. But you still have Isaac Yiadom under contract for an additional 2 years. Rajon Wright and Ugo Amadi, I think they're on 1-year deals. So the Saints could be looking definitely in the secondary market to add depth all over the place. We're talking about from the interior offensive line. See, Cesar Ruiz is a guy that we really need to look at replacing or at least providing competition for. Another drafting or signing a guy at the left guard position, re-signing Fortner to brace McCoy, getting some help internally. If you get another run stuffing guy, you'll get Vernon Brockton back here. We'll see how they handle that and getting some help in the secondary. They'll have our players. I can see the Saints also looking at punters as well as Kai Kroger kind of struggled on the back end. They find Charlie Smith, gave him a 3-year deal, just under $3 million. So there are some areas that this team has done a good job in picking up. You can see the practice squad right here. Several players on the practice squad in the IR, Trey Palmer, and some of these guys, man, looking interesting. Trey Palmer has 1 year left on his agreement. We talked about Vernon Brockton, Kendre Miller in the final year of his deal. Elijah Cooks is another big wide receiver on the futures contract who'll be looking as depth. Devin Neal will be back for the team. McCoy should be back. Nick Devery will have an additional year. Devon Valley, Mason Tipton, they'll be there as well. Bub Means will return. So the Saints wide receiver room has a lot of players. You talk about Jalen Polk and all these guys. They'll have like, I think right now it's like either 11 or 12 wide receivers. They got like 10 or 12 wide receivers in the room right now that the Saints currently have. So it'll be interesting to see just how the team deal with that, going forward. But it's going to be interesting no matter how you slice it and how you look at it with the New Orleans Saints headed forward, man. So anyway, with that being said, fam, that's all I got for y'all today on this Wednesday episode of the Sports Coma. Y'all do me a service by hitting the like button, hitting the subscribe button, hitting the comment section below, and let me know what you thought about this press conference. Did you learn anything that you didn't know? Did you get any some jewels or anything from you heard from Kellen or Slick Mick Loomis? Did you learn? Did you learn anything, or did you just or it's just the same that you all? Y'all put in the section. Let me know. So with that being said, man, I'm gonna get on up out of here. We doing Pelican post game report tonight to recap the Pels game against the Atlanta Hawks. They're currently losing to, which could be the 9th straight loss. Me and DC will be on PPR night recapping that thing. So we appreciate you guys. Please feel free to hit the like button. My LSU people, check out our Tough Tiger Talk channel as well. We got new information that we dropped yesterday on the transfer portal with LSU. And for our boxing people, Ring Kings Boxing World, we always got the real deal going on over there. Simply join TSC Unleash, our channel that covers everything. Almost all of our content is there at TSC Unleashed. It's like a channel with everything on it. You can feel free to look that up. It's at the bottom of our YouTube platform With that said, man, we look, shout out to our Patreon membership family. That film work is going to be up tonight. For your viewing pleasure. Later on in the week, we'll have On Cue with Big Q news shows, 3 shows for our Patreon champions. If our YouTube membership family and our Patreon champions, the film work for week number 18 will be up tonight. With that being said, man, I appreciate y'all contributions. If y'all want to join our Patreon, hit the patreon.com/the Pro Media Network. Link is in the description section or in the chat. And I will holler at you on the next one. Much love, peace, and who that is.
Yeah. Boogie like Benson, I'm a who that. I'm a who that. Long as I'm living, I'm a who that. Lose or winning, I'm a who that. Sports coma, yeah, this is where we do that. Where we do that, 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 Boogie like Benson, I'm a who that. I'm a who that. Sports coma, this is where we do that. Where we do that. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Somebody please better help. Running this thing like elf. Thank God every day I'm not a felt. Go to YouTube live with Big Q and the guys. If you ain't ride or die, the bandwagon get flipped. Been marching in, that was way for the ring. I was yelling out your shame for the championship. Bucking on town, duck down. Falcons, pluck, get shut down. Panthers ain't much touchdown. The vision really belong to us now. So much hate on the Saints, you could probably tell. Ever since Bounty Gate hit the NFL, when things seem fishy and you probably smell the crooked referees on Roger Goodell. Yeah, bugging like this and I'm a who that. Every day I'm living, I'm a who that. Lose or winning, I'm a who that. It's the sports coma, this is where we do that. Where we do that, where we do that, where we do that, where we do that, where we do that. Boogie like this and I'm a who that. It's the sports coma, this is where we do that.
You're listening to the Sports Coma with Big Q and the guys on the PRO Media Network.
Whether you're catching up on Saints news at Jackson Square, checking Pelicans scores in the Garden District, or staying updated on LSU while grabbing coffee in the French Quarter, there's one place that keeps you connected to everything that matters in our city. From Bourbon Street to the Superdome, from Preservation Hall to the Riverfront, New Orleanians are staying in the know with the WhoDatDaily.com, your daily source for Saints, Pelicans, LSU, and all the sports, music, and culture that makes our city special. At work downtown, at a game in the Dome, or just relaxing by the Mississippi, wherever life takes you in the Big Easy, you can stay connected. Because when you're from New Orleans, you don't just live here. You stay in the NO. That's stay in the know. Visit the WhoDatDaily.com and never miss what matters most to Who Dat Nation.
Welcome to the Pro Shop, where we create authentic NOLA-inspired clothing for men, women, and children. From Saints jerseys to Pelicans gear, everything's crafted right here in New Orleans. Whether you're shopping the Pro Shop, the Pel Shop, or the Pro Shop Kids, we've got your whole family covered with genuine merchandise that represents our city's spirit. Check for links in the description section below or in the chat.